When I think about the Tupac Shakur case and the, I wonder, like, I think it was a great thing to solve the Tupac Shakur case. I think it was a great thing to do that. Um, you know, and doing that. But I also looked at I think it was a great thing to solve the Tupac Shakur case. But I wondered, like, if the police department felt pressured, like, to solve, even though it took 27 years to solve. And the reason I say that, is that because Tupac Shakur was a star, and he was publicized all over the world and stuff like that. And because of that, the police department felt pressured to solve the case. Timothy in New York may not have gotten the same exposure, but let's look at George Floyd. The George Floyd case had got exposure as well, just like Tupac. And the only reason that George Floyd got um, exposure was because the video of the George Floyd, the cop killing George Floyd, was public, and it went viral. Whoever took the video posted it, and it went all over the world where the world could see it. Just like Tupac. Tupac was famous. It didn't matter that George Floyd was not a star and Tupac was, because it went public and went all over the world. Tupac was famous all over the world. George Floyd video went public all over the world, and that's why it got the exposure. Um, and those two got exposure, even though Tupac was rich and George Floyd wasn't. But where I'm getting at is that these two black males, was killed, and one at the hands of the police officer, and one at the hands of black on black crime. But when I looked at the both of them, when I looked at the police officers in those two cases, you see one is solve the case, then you see the other one kills the black male, uh, 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 with his hands, or what his knee. But again, you see the police officer solves the case when it came to Tupac, the black male. Then you see the police officer kills the black male with his knee, and shit like that. But again, you see the black male, and I wonder, like, sometimes I wonder, like, according to the George Floyd thing, when that video went viral, I mean, all over the world. I imagine that blacks was angry because of that. But I'm not sure about other races. I wonder if some of the other races were more angry, not because of George Floyd, the black person, the black male. I think some people probably was more angry based on what the police did to George Floyd. Setting blacks aside for a minute, was other races angry based on what the police officer did to George Floyd. It didn't matter whether George Floyd was black and a male. It probably didn't matter to some races. But I think, you could look at that they were more angry. Some races were more angry based on what the police officer did to George Floyd. You know, the outrage, the angriness worldwide, was they more angry at what the police officer did to George Floyd. And you could look at that and stuff like that, but I imagine that blacks was, I think blacks probably cared more based on what happened to, that George Floyd was killed. George Floyd was black, and he was a male. Blacks cared more about that. And that he was killed, and stuff like that. But I wonder sometimes, and then you also could look at people more out. Some people outraged based on what the police officer did to George Floyd. Like that, and I wouldn't be surprised with that, and stuff like that, because the anger is more at the police officer. Some people may have thought, and I imagine that there was some out there like that, was more angry. The anger was more at police officers than George Floyd, and stuff like that, based on George Floyd. What happened to George Floyd. I think some people were more angry more anger at the police. Some people probably didn't give a shit that he was a black male. George Floyd was a black male, and he was a black male. He probably didn't give a shit about that. About George Floyd being a black male. And stuff like that. But it was probably more geared toward what the police officer did to George Floyd. But but I wonder sometimes. I wonder, like, I looked at what the case, what the police department did with the Tupac Shakur. Wasn't another stripe on their damn shoulder. Perhaps. Wasn't another stripe on their shoulder to solve the case. Does they really care about Black America, or like that? But does they really care about blacks? Just because you solve the case doesn't mean it doesn't mean that you care about blacks. That doesn't mean that. Just because you solve the case doesn't mean that you care about blacks. This Tupac Shakur case. I think it probably put pressure on the police department to solve that. But I don't know. Does they really care about blacks? Is the question. Just because you solved the case. Not necessarily. But I think it. I think it brought some. I'm not sure if it brought closure to his family. I think they probably wanted to know who did it, but I'm not sure if it brought closure. But again, man, again, you kind of look at, what what the police department did, and you know, and stuff like that. But I'm not sure if it just was another stripe on their shoulder, or does they really care about blacks? I think it shed a light on, a good light on the police department, based on what happened, that they solved the case, and then based on what happened 3 years ago with George Floyd, um, at the hands of police officers. Well, this is a positive light on the police officers because they solved the case of Tupac Shakur. Then you looked at the police department as at the hands of George Floyd, what they did, what the police officer did to George Floyd, and that was a bad light, and so you know. You know, like that. I mean, you kind of look at the police officers or the police department in two different lights here. You look at one solved the case of Tupac Shakur, and that was a positive thing there. And then you look at what happened to George Floyd, what the police officer did to George Floyd, and that shed a bad light on the police department, the police, you know. And so, like, you see the police departments in two different lights here. You know, you know, you know, when I take a look at when I look at, let's look at the black male for a minute. Let's look at him, and I'm not going to go into, like, because we already know, and it's always public news and this, that, and the other. We see it through neighborhoods, we see it through the news and this, that, and the other, and all this sort of stuff. But I want to look at the black male when it comes to, I think the black male has always been targeted. And I think it began with slavery. And I think that the black male in general has a foot on his neck. And the reason I say that is because of slavery. That's one. Two, black on black crime. Three, massive incarceration. And it seems like that once it had its foot on his neck since slavery, all the way up to 2023, it has never let up. It has never let up. It's like the foot is right there on his neck. And you know, and to me, I think, and I'm talking about in general. I'm not talking about all black males get in trouble, all black males do this and all. Yeah, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in general. The black male has you know, always got his foot on his neck, man. And I think it actually started in slavery, but I think it's the other thing we look at is that how black males treat each other and stuff like that. And then we look at the massive incarceration of black males, you know, and I think that the black male didn't have a chance, like, in a sense. I'm talking about in general. In general. I'm talking about in general. I ain't talking about all black males do this, all black males do that, and all this sort of stuff. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how the black male has been targeted, man, and like, you know, and abused, uh, uh, um, um, you know, and rejected, degraded, you know, like that in general. I'm talking about in general. And I think that the black male in general doesn't have a chance, man. And I'm not really like I don't want to really get into like the superstar stuff and all that, because everybody ain't a fucking superstar. Ain't nobody. A lot of them are not stars, where they can make money off of them and this, that, and the other. So when you look at that, you see like the money, because money is being made off of them when it comes to the celebrity stuff, and money is being made off. But what about the ones that aren't celebrities? You know, and stuff. And I'm looking more at in general. I'm not looking at all males. You know, there are some males, because I know that there are some males that doesn't get in trouble. I know that there are some males that doesn't get in trouble. You know, so you know, so I'm not talking about all males. I'm talking about in general, though. I'm talking about in general how the black male has always been targeted, man. And you know, and I think a lot of times, um, um, uh, when I think about, let's look at police officers for a minute. I think a lot of times that when police officers come in contact with black males, let's look at that. They're first to, I think in some ways they are scared when they come in contact with black males, because, you know, I think because they are scared, for one. They have the gun, the badge, and the baton, and that poses a threat to the black male. But here's the thing. I think a lot of, if you look at a lot of black males in general, I think that a lot of black males can, and you know, when I think about a lot of black males can beat a lot of white males, and I think like when it comes to police officers, they are afraid, and therefore what they use is the gun and the baton. Because if you look at the Rodney King thing, what they had to beat him, he was unarmed, but they had to beat him to beat him down to the ground to stabilize him. Like, they had to like disabled him to like submission, like disable him to submission, and because of the threat that a lot of them feel from black men. and they used that baton. Remember, they was beating him with the baton and stuff like that. And a lot of them was beating him down to the ground to disable him, so that he wouldn't pose a threat to them, even if he was unarmed. You know, and I think a lot of times, a lot of white men feel threatened by the black male period. So that's why they brought us over here to these shores in the United States, chained, because they felt threatened. They had to disable us. They had to, like put us in chains. They beat us and put us in prison and all this old stuff to disable us, and to disable the black male, because they felt threatened by it. You know, they feel threatened by it. You know, like that. You know, they felt threatened by it. But I think a lot of it goes with that. You know, because you know, they feel threatened by that, and so therefore they'll beat them, shoot them, kill them, you know, and shit like that, and stuff like that, because they feel threatened. And you know, and not all black males are threaten people, but I think when it comes to especially with police officers, you know, that's why the gun and the baton and the badge is there, you know. So the white male, who's the police officer, can protect himself from the black male or anybody. But mainly, you know, because we see that the black male is being come in contact with the white cop all the time, you know, and because that's what we see, and because that's what we see. Because that's what we see. But I think that and because we see that, you see a lot of them get killed. You know, you doesn't see it. You doesn't see the baton all the time. They didn't let that shit go. I mean, like, you know, so it's down to the gun now. And you know, if the black male, you know, is, you know, if the white male feels threatened by the black male, he'll probably use his gun. He probably wouldn't use the baton. He'll pull out the gun, you know. Whether the black male was running away from the police officer or running toward the police officer, it doesn't matter. He'll still pull out the gun based on video. But again, you know, he feels threatened, and I think you know, that's why you see massive incarceration. That's why you see the killings. You know, and I think that, and that's why you seen chains on the slaves when we came here. You know, you seen the chains there. You know. And stuff like that. You seen chains. They put chains around our necks and our ankles, our hands, and shit like that to stable and disable us, especially the black males, because they felt threatened by that, and they continue to feel threatened by that. But I think that the black male has been targeted since slavery, and he always had a foot on his neck. And he can't, and I imagine that the black male feel that. throughout the decades since slavery and stuff like that. And I imagine that the black male does feel that, and stuff throughout the generations, throughout, and whether he may admit that or not, and stuff like that, because this is how white America made you feel. And I imagine that the black male feel that the white male is trying to control him and stuff like that. Like he can't do nothing. Like a foot is on his neck all the damn time. When in general, that foot is on his neck, and it's that, and stuff like that. So I imagine that. And I'm not looking at them damn stars and stuff like that because they making fucking money. I'm talking about in general. Let's go away from the star stuff. Let's go away from, let's look at society, how the black male is viewed, how they treat the black male, and stuff like that. And what you kind of see is that the black male has a foot on his neck throughout society, throughout slavery, all the way up to 2023, man. I don't think it's any different. I don't any different. And then you kind of look at how does it make the black male feel. And here's the thing with that is that I think a lot of them, in general, I'm talking about in general, I think in some ways that I think some males gave up on society because of gave up on this is the way it's going to be. When it comes to the foot on the neck, this is the way it's going to be. So I think a lot of them doesn't care in a sense. I'm talking about in general. Because I think how the white male made them feel, and stuff. How the white male made them feel. And when you look at that, when you kind of see that, I imagine that you probably see that there is a lot of violence. The violence. I imagine when we came here, we was, had chainsaw on us and stuff like that. But I think that shit built up over the fucking years. The being degraded, being chained up, where we didn't have free will, and stuff like when the black male doesn't have the free will, when he doesn't have the free will to do what he wants to do and stuff, without white America or the white male saying, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that, and stuff like that, and I think that's probably why you see the crime. I think that's why you see that. I think because at some point, the black male in general, I ain't talking about all black males. I'm talking about in general. This is why you see the crime wave. You know, because you know, some of them, you know, some of them like may not have the best of jobs. They may feel less than the white male, and stuff like that, and based on how the white male make them feel, and stuff like that. And I think in some ways the black male in general gave up. You know, because again, a lot of them probably doesn't have, you know, certain education. They doesn't have certain jobs and this, that, and the other, and all this sort of stuff. And they try to survive the best way they know how and stuff like that. And I think sometimes, based on what the white male made them feel, you know, they go out and do all kinds of crimes and stuff like that just to make it, or wind up incarcerated. Some of them winds up incarcerated for because they did something, and some of them wind up incarcerated because they didn't do something. But again, when you think about that, I think about the crime that the black males commits, and I think it goes back to how the white male degrade the black male. I think it goes back to that. I don't think it was something that, if let's look at this. If the black male had access to the same fortune that the white males did, you think a lot of them would be incarcerated? You think a lot of them would go around committing crimes? If the black male, and I ain't talking about fucking celebrity shit. I'm talking about jobs that the black male can have access to. I ain't talking about some. I'm talking about majority of them have the same wealth that the white male have. Do you think that there will be a lot of crime, you know, like that, when it comes to the black male? Do you think it would be a lot of crime? I don't think so. I think once the black male will have the same wealth that the white male have, I think life will be different. And I think Yvette Carnell talked about reparations and stuff like that, because I think because of slavery, they deprived us of a lot of stuff. And the black male was degraded because he couldn't do certain things for the family. I mean, he was doing a lot of shit for the slave master, but I think he was deprived of a lot of shit, and then trying to throughout the years, you know, provide for his family, and understanding the white male is keeping him down because of that race factor. But I think you know, I do think that. And not all black males get in trouble. Not all black males have. I imagine there's some racism going on with that, with black males. But I still think that the black male has a foot on his damn neck in general, and I think that's why you see a lot of crime when it comes to the black male. Because I think that's why you see selling drugs. I think that's why you see massive incarceration. In some cases with massive incarceration, because I believe some of them are there that shouldn't be there. I think a lot of crime. I think when it comes to crime, I think we need to look at all that, man. And you know, when it comes to crime, the black male going around committing crimes and stuff, and I imagine that the drug use, I believe that plays a role too. I think the drug use play a role too, because of what the black male can't do, and he's not given the same rights as the white male. And I think in some ways the black male falls into depression. He'll use drugs, he'll go to prison, he'll, and do all kinds of petty crimes and shit like that, because he doesn't have access. And Yvette Carnell talked about the reparations that slaves should get, because we were deprived of a lot of shit when we came over to these damn shores. When we came over here in America, we were deprived, and we continue to be deprived. And I think the black male is the one that is more. I don't think anybody in society is more damaged, that was damaged more than the black male in general. I think the black male has been damaged more than any other race or male in society in general. And again, he had a foot on his neck from the beginning, and it continued to stay there, man. And it's because of him. And again, I think some black males have opportunities and stuff like that, but we're talking about the average one. And stuff, and that's why you see massive incarceration. That's why you see drug use. Drug use. I'm not going to say all drug use. Drug use is caused on how the white male made the black male feel. I think some people just want to get high, but there's a reason. I imagine some drug use is contribute to how the fucking white male made the black male feel. And shit like that, and how the opportunities that he was not given in the beginning and stuff, and then when you look at today's society and how the crimes is committed. Some people get jobs, some males get jobs, some doesn't, some got felonies and shit like this and that and all this stuff, because I imagine that contributed down to the damn generations when it came to jobs and shit like that. That's why them damn felonies are there, and shit like that. But again, that black male always had a foot on his damn neck. And in general, and it hasn't let up since. And people, I don't think people understand that. And because of how slavery and throughout the damn generations, when it came to the police department, when it came to the crime wave, when it came to drugs, when it came incarceration and all this shit that the white male has bestowed upon us, and created all this madness. And the white male, the black male, suffered, continue to suffer in general because of it. And I think that the black male had gotten to, some black males has gotten to the point, I don't give a shit what happens in my life, when it comes to especially when they doesn't have lack of jobs, when they doesn't have lack of money, they can't do this, they can't do that, and all this other bullshit. And the only thing that they feel, in some ways, that they feel that the only way to live in society, or try to survive, or try to have some type of fucking sanity, is to go out and commit fucking crime, get high, do this, do that, and all this old bullshit, because of what happened from slavery on down to 2023. And I think a lot of times people doesn't want to look at it like that. But it stemmed from that, man. And I think that a lot of people doesn't want to look at that. And again, the black male has been targeted from slavery, and I think he continued to be that. It doesn't matter who is at the hands of like, because I think, and when you look at slavery, when you look at black on black crime, when you look at incarceration, those three things has held the black male hostage, like, in general. Held them hostage, like, it held them hostage, man. And you know, it really did. And you know, it really held them hostage. And you know, it held them hostage. You know, and you have to look at that. You can't, like, shun that shit, man. I mean, but I think a lot of, what's wrong with them? Why, why are they committing these crimes? Why are they in prison? Why are they, and it date right back to the motherfucking slavery time. It just was passed down to the damn generations. And I'm not saying all crime that blacks do is not their responsibility, because it is. But I think if you date back to the damn slavery time, it started there, and had its foot on the black male's neck ever since. And it victimized him, and held him hostage. And throughout the decades, years, and shit like that, centuries, whatever, and held him hostage. And it continues to do that. Of course, there's some jobs out there for black males and stuff like that, but we can't account for all black males. Of course, stars make money and shit like that, but we can't account for that for all black males and stuff like that. If all of us are not free, I mean, why free some of them when all of us are not? And stuff, and stuff like that. And I think it degrades the black male. I think putting a foot on his neck degrades him. It holds him hostage, like. It holds him hostage, and it can turn on, it can turn them fighting against each other. Like, this is where you see the black on black crime. You know, massive incarceration. Uh, and then when you talk about slavery, then you talk about black on black crime, and then you talk about massive incarceration, and it's all geared toward the black male. And and I'm not surprised of the crime wave. I'm not surprised of drugs. I'm not surprised of um, um, the cop and the black male. I'm not surprised of the white cop and the black male throughout the decades. I'm not surprised of drugs use. I'm not surprised of massive incarceration. I'm not surprised of any of that when it comes to the black male. I'm not surprised because I think all of it came out of the slavery, and it passed down through the generations, and 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 then when you look at felonies and shit like that, and here the black male accumulates some felonies, and some you can't get it expunged, so therefore you stuck with the damn felony. Then there's 1, 2, 3 street. The motherfuckers call 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes against you, and shit like that. You can't do this, you can't do that, and all this sort of stuff. And then the black male has to find different ways to make money, and the first thing that this quick money, and sell drugs, and then he gets felonies and shit, and then he ends up in fucking prison. It's like the whole cycle, and it reminds me of this. The prison system is going right back to slavery. That's what it reminds me of. The prison system is headed right back to slavery. And they building more and more prisons. And it's headed right back to slavery, man. Remember when the black male came over here, had a chains around his neck, his ankles, and his hands. The prison bars takes the place of that. Like the prison bars takes the place of chains around your neck, your ankles, and your hands. The prison bars takes the place of that, and I think it's headed right back to slavery. It's headed right back there. Because you see, most of us are in those places, and they building more and more prisons, like more and more prisons. And again, I'm not surprised of high crime rate when it comes to black males. I'm not surprised of drug use. I'm not surprised of massive incarceration when it comes to the black male, and stuff like that. I'm not surprised of black on black crime. I'm not surprised of any of it. And the other thing, when I thought about the drug use, and I'm gonna say this. When drugs were brought over to, like, I'm not saying LSD and marijuana and pills and cocaine, heroin. When crack came out, I think what the white male did was sold the story to the black male, where you can make all this money and shit like that, because didn't know, or black person probably had the fucking money, unless he was a star or rich and famous or something like that can pull this shit off when it came to the drug, when it come to selling drugs. I'm talking about when crack cocaine came out. And there was a lot of drug use and arrests based on it. and a lot of felonies went with it. But here's the thing, the white male, because ain't no fucking body probably had the money to pull it off. But in those in the communities, didn't no black person probably had the fucking money to pull it off. So the white male traps the motherfucking black. The white male traps the black male. And see, this is where he traps him. And he traps him and saying, hey, I got a lot of drugs here, and you wanna sell some? And this is where the white male traps him. And you wanna sell some? We'll bring all the fucking crack cocaine into the communities and try to kill off as many blacks and shit as we possible. And then the ones that we didn't kill got arrested with felonies. And this is what happened. He traps the black male to get the damn felonies. If for the ones that didn't die of drug overdoses. For the ones that didn't die of drug overdoses based on the drugs. This is the way the white male traps the black male. He trapped the black male by allowing him to sell the drugs. Not only does he sell the drugs, they're using it. And here is where overdoses, addictions, health problems based on, selling the bodies and this, that, and the other, and all this sort of stuff. And at the end of the day, here come the damn felonies and imprisonment. And so the white male traps the black male. Because you can imagine that if he get one to sell, he can get many of them to sell, and this is where the fucking felonies come in at, and imprisonment come in at. So he traps the black male, all those black males. Can you imagine in the 1980s how many fucking black males was imprisoned by selling drugs? This is where the white male traps him. Not only that he's selling the drugs, many black males and females using the drugs and overdoses and they die. And if they didn't die, well, now it's time to go to prison. You know, and shit like that. Now it's time to go to prison. Because you're gonna stack up on the damn felonies. Many black males sold drugs during that time. And you can imagine how many went to prison with felonies. You can imagine how many went to prison. You can imagine drug use, drug selling, drug use, addictions, overdoses, imprisonment, felonies, and shit like that. Where he traps the black male. Many black males, once they drove that crack into the neighborhoods, because they knew that was a way for the black male to make some quick fucking money, and they were willing to do that. And this is where the white male traps him. Many of them. Throughout that time, all the way up to now, he traps him, and shit like that. But in their minds, they making money. That was a way for them to make some quick money. The black males, all the black males that went that route. That was a way to make some quick money. But the white male traps him by bringing that shit into the communities. Again, got the black male selling drugs, got the black male using drugs, got the black male with an addiction, got the black male with felonies and imprisonment, where he traps the black male. Like, can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? And see, and again, did nobody black had the money to pull those them drugs, pour those drugs into in those communities? Like, but again, I think the deaths and shit like that. I think it was there to drag the drugs into the communities was a way to kill off a lot of people too. I wouldn't be surprised with that too, based on the overdoses and deaths, you know, stuff like that. So I wouldn't have been surprised about that. You know, I definitely wouldn't have been surprised about that. You know. I wouldn't have been surprised about that, but that's how you'll see it, man, and that's how you seen it. But that white male trapped him, into selling the drugs, man, and he think he's making some fast fucking money, but the white male traps him, and stuff, and it trapped not just him, a lot of other black males, because that was a way to make fast money. And they comes up with addictions, felonies, imprisonment, deaths, and you name it. You know? And you name it. You know? But that's how it happened, man. And you can't deny that. You can't deny that, though. But because that's exactly what happened. You can't deny it because that's exactly what happened. And shit. But again, and I'm not saying black males didn't treat other black males to selling drugs, but then nobody had the money to pull that shit off from the beginning, before the drugs came into the communities. Who had the money to pull it off, to drag the drugs into those communities? Who had it? Who had that money? Who had the money to do that? I mean, to drag the drugs into the communities. And to a lot of communities. Who had the money to do that? Like, who had the money to do that? Who had the money to do that? Like, and stuff like that. So you kind of see, you know, you kind of see that a lot of people probably didn't have the money to pull it off like that. And I think that the only ones that had the money to pull it off was probably white, somebody white that had a whole lot of motherfucking drugs, and that was willing to make some money, even though it caused deaths, arrests, overdoses, imprisonment, addictions, and shit like that. It didn't matter to them who it was going to harm, how it was going to harm, and this, that, and the other. And the black male fell for the trap, and it caused a lot of pain and suffering when it comes to the black male, the community, the black female, the family, and other races as well. But when you think about drugs, and when you think about the communities that they set out to sell those damn drugs, who was when you talk about the 80s and stuff, who was mostly harmed and all of that? When you talk about the communities, they made sure that they knew right where to bring the drugs in at. You know. And I wonder if it was to kill off a lot of black people. I wouldn't be surprised about it. And I think it did kill off some people. I think a lot of people got addiction. I think a lot of people went to prison. I imagine that it was a lot of overdoses and and people selling drugs and shit like that, and getting felonies and everything. And trapping the black male, and I imagine that it entrapped a lot of them, like that. I imagine that it did, and again, I think that in some ways it was inflicting the harm on them, based on the selling of the drugs coming into community, period, because you knew the harm that was going to come when that happened. And I think that I think in some ways that's why you see a lot of black male that doesn't care. I think you see a lot of that when it comes to them, and some of them not caring. I think when it comes to like generations and generations of and you kind of see that there is a not caring factor. There's like the black male doesn't care, because I think it has gotten to the point where, they doesn't care. Some black males doesn't care. And I think it started with slavery. And on down to the generations. And I think that's why you see it. That's why you see some of them that doesn't care. I think some of it has to do with incarceration. I imagine that drugs got them there, and some of them got there by a false way of getting there. Some are in prison that shouldn't be in there, but I think it got into the point where if getting 3 hops in a cart in prison is the way to go, then I think some black males just got to the point that they doesn't care. I wouldn't be surprised at that either. Based on the treatment throughout the decades and perhaps a century, but hey, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at any of it. I'm not surprised of black on black crime. Since slavery, I'm not surprised of black on black crime, incarceration, the non-caring factor, drug overdoses, and selling drugs, they're not caring, more imprisonment. I'm not surprised of any of it. I'm not surprised of it. And then you look at the cop and the blackmail. I'm not surprised of any of that because it stemmed from slavery on down to now. You know, in general, and when you talk about the in general factor, because not everybody gets in trouble and this that and not all black males get in trouble, but I'm talking about the in general factor. That black male man, they trying to strangle him. In general, try to strangle him, and or disabled him. All the way around the clock, man. All the way around, man. And he suffered. It's like a suffering. To the black male suffers. In general, he suffers. And that's why I'm not surprised of the non-caring factor in the black male. Like he doesn't care, or he care about himself and this that. I'm not surprised of that when it comes to him, because of how he's being treated when it comes to society. So I'm not surprised of the non-caring factor that the black male has, because of the way he's been treated since slavery. And you know, so I'm not surprised. Like, I'm not surprised. And people doesn't really want to look at that, but he's the one. If you look at well, blacks been outcast since slavery, but I think the most harm that is caused against a race is Black America. But I think that the most harm that is caused is to the black male. I don't see any other male in society when it comes to the race. I don't think any other male has suffered more than the black male in general. I don't see any other male has suffered more than a black male. And you know, like that. And that's the real deal. And I don't want people to put covers on it and try to act like what the fuck I'm saying is it's not true and all this other shit. No, it is true. And shit, and that's why you see all this shit happening with him, with the black male. That's why you see all this shit happening with him. And it started with that damn slavery. And he had his foot on his neck ever since then. And he never let up. And that foot has never lifted up. It's still there. In general. In general. It's still there. And you know, but 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 I imagine that people sitting there saying, "What's wrong with him? Why can't what's wrong with black African American males and shit like that?" But I don't particularly like look at it like that. Um, I know that some black males put themselves in position to be up with the cops and stuff like that, but I had to go back and look at all that shit, man, and how the black male has been treated, and and all this entrapment shit and stuff like that, but he been having that shit against him since slavery, and it has never let up. In general, it has never let up. And I think he'll continue to suffer. In general. I'm talking about in general. To suffer. And whether it's slavery, black on black crime, incarceration, drug use, overdoses, killings, whatever. Whatever. And that's the real deal of it, man. And I don't want and I think I understand the black male better based on slavery and what happened ever since that. Because I think at some point the black male is, some black males just don't care, and I think it stemmed from the generations of stuff that happened and within the generations and time throughout time, generation after generation after generation, in the time periods since slavery. I think it's to the point where some black males just doesn't care. And I'm not saying all black males, but I'm saying in general, the black male has a foot on his neck, and he can barely breathe. And live throughout society that God had invented us for, but that white male, man, is strangling that black male throughout the generations, and it started with that damn slavery, and he's strangling that black male, got a foot right on his damn neck. And I think after a certain period of time, some black males just doesn't care, and I'm not surprised at that. I'm not surprised at that. You think I'm surprised? No, I'm not surprised at any of it. I'm not surprised of slavery, black on black crime, imprisonment, drug use, overdoses, killings, and you name it, and serial killers, and this and that, and all this old bullshit. I'm not surprised of any of it. And shit, I'm not surprised of none of it. The black male and the police officer, I'm not surprised of any of it. And shit. And people, and again, there are people out there that do got, black males that do got jobs. You got superstars and all this old stars that got money and all this old stuff. But I'm not really I'm talking about the black male period in general, and how he suffered throughout the damn generation. That's what I'm talking about. in general. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about how these damn Hollywood stars got their jobs and shit like that. And the only reason why they got that because they making money off of them. If they wasn't making money off of them, you wouldn't see a whole lot of football players, basketball players, Oprah Winfrey, and this, that, and the other, and whoever else. You wouldn't see a lot of that either. You know, only because they making money off. You know, you wouldn't see a lot of that shit. You know. You know, you wouldn't see a lot of this shit, but here's the thing, you know, here's the thing, you know, again, I wouldn't be surprised if nothing changes. I wouldn't be surprised if any of it. If nothing does, nothing changes. Because you know, in society, I don't know no one else that has been more threatened, more beaten, more suffered than the black male. I don't. But in general, I don't know nobody that suffered more than him. I don't know nobody that suffered more than him. Um, um, you know, and so since slavery. I don't know nobody that suffered more than him. But I think that you know, but 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 we can look at well, why is they like this and why is they like that. Now let's do a damn throwback to that damn slavery. We'll find it from that point to this point and how he's still treated in society. The black male. How he's still treated in society. You'll see it all. Like, from slavery all the way up to now. You'll see why the black male is the way he is. Whether it's incarceration, black on black crime, drug use, slavery, anything else. You'll see it. What did I'm gonna close out on this thing, man.